Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome back. It's past midnight here in London, but I've decided to make this video as a celebration. Basically, yesterday in the mail, I've received a very important piece for my collection. As thanks to this, I'm able to say that I have completed an important goal as a game collector, and that is to own at least one physical copy of each game in the Legend of Heroes series. Um, for this reason, let's get all the games out of the way. And what I wanted to do, basically, I wanted to. Whoa, sorry, move the camera for a mistake. Basically, what I wanted to do is to share my experiences and feelings of why I love this series so much and why I've decided to collect it, even though there are probably uh, bigger Falcon fans than me, with, for example, special editions or uh, various editions of the each and every game. The first comes to mind, of course, is Greg Swagman, Wander to the Past. Of course, he is the Falcon fanatic for a reason. But in I really fell in love with this series to the point that I consider it my second favorite JRPG series of all time. And in case you're wondering, my favorite is actually the Breath of Fire series. I mentioned it quite a few times in my videos, and nothing will ever top that. But Legend of Heroes, it's actually my current favorite, you might say, since Breath of Fire is kind of dead. I mean, there is one. There's been nothing on that Breath of Fire 6 in a long time, so who knows? But um, how this madness started, I mean, we know that there have been I want to say like troubles and tribulations in the publishing of these games here in the West, almost from the start, unfortunately, that I think in a way made the wait even more special. And when we finally received these games, there was a huge amount of hype and anticipation that now I mean, the circle is kind of complete now. We're finally have the chance of playing the third game in the Trails Sky trilogy. While in Japan, in September, Trails of Cold Steel 3 will be released, apparently. So, as you know, this is a huge series released by Neon Falcom. Originally, it was part of another series, the Dragon's Lair, but progressively it became its own thing, and now it's basically Falcom's main series together with Ys. And in a way, I think it's actually the main series. It probably has replaced Ys as Falcom primer game series. And let's start from the beginning for me. And the game that started it all, started this passion and love for the whole series. And I think a lot of people would say the same thing, have the same kind of situation. So let's start from the beginning with, of course, Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky first chapter. Um, this is a game that basically made me buy my PSP and ditch the 3DS for the first time. Since I've heard so many great things about this game that I really, really wanted to play it. And hearing that it was such a great story-driven game with a very strong old school feeling at heart, that it's almost like a sort of return to the glory days of the genre, like during the PS1 days. Since you have to remember when this game was released, when was it now? Since 2011. Um, we were in a sort of a weird phase with JRPGs. I mean, it's a big source of debate if like our JRPG not as good as they used to be, or even are JRPGs dead? I mean, that's a huge topic on its own. Like, I remember Majority did a very interesting video on the fact if JRPGs have a market here in the West. So definitely check that out. It's a huge shout out to Majority, by the way. But hearing all the praise from basically all the YouTubers that I really enjoyed, it made me super curious about this game. So I decided to pull the trigger, and here we go. Honestly, at first I wanted to get the special edition because, like, the gorgeous big box, like with the soundtrack and all those goodies. Didn't buy it because it was too expensive for me. Basically, for the same price, I managed to get this, the soundtrack on its own, and the PSP. So, but that's kind of a detail. And of course, started to play this immediately, and from the first moment, I fell in love with the game. It has everything that I love about RPGs, and like, do I even need to talk about the story in Trails of the Sky? I made my video about it. There are a ton on YouTube, I'm sure. But it's just, I think, probably what really made me fall in love with this game. It's probably its old schoolness, but of the story, the type of storytelling, the characters, the interaction between the characters. I mean, I will never forget the story between Joshua and Estelle from this game and its sequel, but we'll talk about that later. I really enjoy this world, and honestly, even without, like, progressing through the series, like, even if it wasn't for, like, all the Suikoden similarities, I mean, this has been compared very much, these two series, and I never played Suikoden. I never had the chance, with the exception of Tierkreis. But these stories all connected with each other that had repercussion one to the other. It's a very interesting concept that all the games have references to the others, recurring characters. It's something that I really, as I said, never experienced because I never played Suikoden. So I greatly enjoy that. Of course, it's one of the many reasons why I fell in love with this game. Of course, I have to mention, like, how I enjoy the battle system, since I always loved turn-based RPGs, so the classic style of RPGs. That for me is always the best system you can get. Trails in the Sky created this. I don't know if it was the first, but I really enjoy its combat system, which is, as we know, a hybrid between a classic turn-based and a strategy RPG. Plus, it added a sort of materia system from Final Fantasy VII with the quartz, which was, I always love this kind of stuff. Even though I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan, I really enjoy the combat system and the materia system. So to have all of this together, there's this fantastic combat system. It was a lot of fun. And plus, of course, I mean, the characters. I mean, I only mention, like, Joshua and Estelle, since are the main characters, of course. But, like, how can you not, like, mention Sherazard or Oliver, Tita, Agate, all these unforgettable characters that it's so cool that they are also returning. Like, I saw the other day on Facebook a picture, like a character design or something, of characters from Trails of Cold Steel 3, which is much later in this game chronology, and there are like a drawing of Tita, for example. It's apparently coming back. I was like, whoa, that's awesome. All of this, of course, has a phenomenal soundtrack. Really, really good. So I was very glad to buy it. And all of this is the recipe for a masterpiece, of course. I was not surprised. I mean, I had very high expectations in a way, even though I'm pretty good at not hyping myself, or at least contain the hype. But boy, did I enjoy this. Even though I really like hearing people say like what a great RPG this was, like the best of its generation, one of the greatest of all time. I was like, wow, that's a lot of compliments. I wonder if Trails in the Sky will deliver, and it did greatly. Plus, do not forget that, of course, Trails in the Sky, to me at least, has the biggest, like the greatest, let's say like this, the greatest cliffhanger in gaming history. um, I cannot tell what happened because when it happens, you're just like, it's shocking. It's a very well, like the build up to that moment, it's unbelievable. And then the games is over. You're like, oh my god, I want to play the sequel. And all as we fan of the series know, there kind of wasn't a plan for a sequel. I mean, of course, the game was there in Japan. Um, it even says at the end of the game, like the story of Joshua Estelle will continue in Trails in the Sky second chapter, and we all ask ourselves, like, where is second chapter? We need the game. Uh, you cannot have an ending like this and not a sequel immediately. So, as we know, the waiting started, and it was long, very long. I'm not going into the details of the troubles at Exceed, the marvelous company that through very hard work uh, and a lot of troubles, work on the translation, like the edits and localization of the Trails in Sky games and most of the Legend of Heroes games. But it was bad to the point that we weren't even sure if this game was coming at all. It was a big question mark. So to the point that I remember hearing a lot of video about second chapter when the game was released. A spoiler alert. Uh, of people say that yeah, the long wait kinda burned me off, and it's like yeah, it's good, but I don't care that much anymore. Why I was super excited to play, but anyways, and that's also I think one of the reasons why I love this cliffhanger so much. I mean, it is incredible what happened for like in story wise, but also the fact that you didn't know if like when, even if the game was coming was a huge deal, I think. So for the time being, I was like, okay, I played this fantastic game. It was phenomenal. I loved it from beginning to end. Everything, as I said, like the story was great. I love this character, the battle system, one of the greatest I ever played. Honestly, it's really um, one of the best battle systems you can have in an RPG. I think. A great soundtrack. I mean, everything was perfect. I really wanted to play more, but of course, I mean, second chapter was a big question mark. So I say, okay, let's search of this Legend of Heroes series, since honestly, I never heard of it before. Before Trails in the Sky first chapter, I was like, never heard of this Legend of Heroes. So I educated myself through the wonders of Wikipedia, and discovered that there were games before this. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that's how I learned about the Gargaf trilogy. So apparently, interesting enough, some of these games now are hard to find. So I was very lucky to buy them when I was able to. The important thing here, like we all know, at least fans of the series, we know of the weird numbering here in the West, as the first that was released here was Tear Vermilion, that was followed by Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch. I'm sorry for the lighting, but as you know, I'm doing the best I can. So, Legend of Heroes 2, it's called here, Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch, and finally Legend of Heroes 3 Song of the Ocean. Of course, as we know, this numbering is wrong. The first that was released in Japan was Moonlight Witch, which is Legend of Heroes 3, followed by Legend of Heroes 4 A Tear of Vermilion, and Legend of Heroes 5 Song of the Ocean. And that will make Trails in the Sky Legend of Heroes 6. So of course I wanted to play the games in order, and I've started with Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch, and lo and behold, I really enjoyed it. Now the important thing is, if you are interested in getting into the Gaga trilogy, as I really recommend to, because they're really good games. I mean, I really enjoyed all three of them. Don't expect Trails in the Sky. I mean, they're good, but they're different. It's not the same thing. The interesting thing to me is that you can see a lot of the things in Trails in the Sky already in the Gaga games. Maybe not perfected yet. There's like, you might say like, this is sort of like Trails in the Sky, a bit rougher on the edges. But they are their own thing, and I love them for this reason. But it's a sort of the blueprint for the Trails in the Sky games, I would say, because they're all connected to each other. It's one big story in here, as technically Moonlight Witch is the first game, but in reality it's the latest in the chronology. Tear of Vermilion, it's the first one in the chronology, so it's a prequel. And Song of the Ocean, although the last one to be released, it's kind of the middle one. So if you want to play them in a chronological, following the in-game chronology, you start with Tear of Vermilion, Song of the Ocean, and finish with Moonlight Witch. And as I said, don't expect Trails in the Sky, even though the similarities are there. I mean, the battle system, it's the interesting thing about the battle system, since I started there for some reasons. Apparently, I've heard about with Tear of Vermilion, that the battle system in the PSP version that we got in West, it's very different from the original one that's in Japan was released on PC, first of all. And apparently the original battle system of the Gaga games, it's much more similar to the Trails in the Sky one, so it's a more strategy-oriented kind of battle system. While in here, it is, but in a very, say, light fashion, so it's still on a sort of grid, similar to Trails in the Sky, but it's a much more simpler version of it. Like there are no like quartz, at least in the first two. In Song of the Ocean, there is a sort of not quartz system, but you can equip your characters with fragments of stones. I will explain later maybe. But you can equip your characters with some objects, but it's not the same thing as quartz. So as I said, Moonlight Witch is the first that was released of these games, and you can tell that it's an old game, since the story is kind of simple, but it's a very, to me, I really enjoyed it. It's a very likable game with very likable characters, a good soundtrack, a fun battle system, and I honestly love the graphics of this game. It's very gorgeous to look at. Maybe it's not the best you can get, but it's very enjoyable. And it started this very interesting adventure. But to me, the real deal of the Gaga trilogy, it's absolutely, without doubt, Tear of Vermilion. This game is fantastic. This is a must for RPG fans, even if you're not interested in the rest of the series. And not really. I was about to say, like, in a way, this is the only one you can play on your side, but even Moonlight Witch, you can kind of play it on its own. Song of the Ocean is the only one you can't, I'll say. But Tear of Vermilion really surprised me by how good this game is and how much I enjoyed it. And I'm not afraid to say that after I beat this, to me this was almost as good as Trails in the Sky. It has a great story, great, really well developed characters, a phenomenal music, and the battle system. It's kind of, I don't want to say the weakest point of the game. It's kind of the same as Moonlight Witch, so it's kind of a simplified version of the Trails in the Sky one. So it's fun. It's a good battle system. But such a great story and amazing characters. I really want to replay this now. It's been a while, but and I have so many games, but I enjoy this so much that I really want to. I mean, this I cannot recommend Tear Vermilion enough, guys. If you like RPGs, you have to play it, since it has all the elements that Trails in the Sky made us fall in love with. So a great story, amazing characters, a great soundtrack. It's everything is there. And finally, Song of the Ocean. It's the final one of the Gaga games, and technically the middle one in the chronology. As I said before, I'll say this is probably my least favorite of the Gaga games, even though it's still a good game. I greatly enjoy this. But it has the best combat system, so it's a more, I'll say, complete version. It's a more, I don't want to say intricate because it's still a kind of an easy, simple battle system, but it has more options compared to the other two. Like, as I mentioned, those stones you can equip your characters with. Basically, in the course of the story, you find these tablets, which are let's say the legacy of this great musician. Since this is, as the name suggests, like the Song of the Ocean. It's there are music. It's a big part in this game, both practically as a soundtrack. It's very good actually, but also it's a very important part in the story. As you can see from the cover, like the main characters are part of a traveling band. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, the stones. And basically these tablets contain basically some legendary songs and musical pieces. Then you can equip your characters with, and it grants you like I think spells and stuff like that. But it is a very improved battle system. I wish that all the Gaga games have like the same functions than this. But I don't know if, like, for example, Song of the Ocean as well had a very different combat system, like the original version of Tear of Vermilion had. And I've heard that Moonlight Witch was kind of like that. So here in the West, the battle system of the Gaga games have been much simplified. I think it's still a good battle system in general. It's not as good as Trails in the Sky, that's for sure, I would say. But it's still fun. They're kind of simple, not very intricate battle system, but they counterbalance that with really good stories. Tear Vermilion in particular, I cannot stress enough how good that story is. Great characters, Tear Vermilion again in particular. Because the problem with this too, it's not a problem, but some characters could have been better developed and better used, especially here. I have one to pick with Song of the Ocean with two characters which I really like but were not very well used, I think. But anyways, so luckily I got these really good trilogy, keep me company, and made me really start to fall in love with Legend of Heroes. So 4 games, which I greatly enjoyed. So, and Trails in the Sky and Tear Vermilion in particular, I really love them. But what I really wanted at that point was second chapter, like everybody else in the universe, basically. We wanted that game. And it's been years since the first game, so a lot of people was kind of giving up hope, and I say like, almost like, yeah, like second chapter will happen. But all of a sudden on internets and social medias, Exceed strike back and started to spread rumors that they were working not only on second chapter but also on another part of the Legend of Heroes series. So more games were finally new games were coming. So the excitement was over the roof. I mean, I was like, whoa, not only second chapter but a new game, and we all know what that game is, but one thing at a time. So basically, we started to get more and more news and the identity of the other game, which was what in Japan it's called Sen no Kiseki, translated here as Treasure Called Steel. So basically, it was 2 years ago now, by Christmas 2015, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. We were getting to Legend of Heroes game, basically. And you can only imagine how excited I was. I was like, yeah! Over the moon. And of course, I played both games one after the other. What else could I do? So, the thing is, of course, that second chapter would not get a physical release. That's the thing. Let me take a step backward here. The thing is, Trails in the Sky, although it's very, very well received by gamers and it's very highly regarded by critics, apparently didn't do very well commercially. After all, you have to consider like as I said, 2011, an RPG on a handheld system. I mean, it was kind of a new release. It was kind of a risky, as I said, all of this is a sort of a risky move, and in fact, apparently, it didn't do as well as it should have. So that's also part of the reason why the release of second chapter was kind of difficult for Exceed, because its shareholders weren't impressed, and they also had, of course, like contracts with Falcom and all of that, but they managed to get like the work on second chapter, and when the game was about to get released, the deal was like no physical copy here in the West. Probably was like it's a PSP game. It was years after the PSP was already dead, so it was, of course, like from their point of view, I mean, this decision makes sense. Of course, us gamers and collectors in particular were kind of pissed off because we love our physical copies. So of course, what I did, obviously, I bought my copy in Japan, order on the internet, and here it is, and then bought the game in English on my Vita, and immensely enjoyed it. I mean, this is probably my favorite Legend of Heroes games, even over the Cold Steel game. That's a big statement. Now that I said, I'm thinking about it, but we'll see. But I cannot stress how phenomenal second chapter is. I mean, it started immediately after the infamous cliffhanger of the first game, and then this story unfolds, and it's huge. One thing, okay, before, if you want to talk about second chapter a bit more, these 4 games are the Gagav games are not particularly huge, I would say. And second chapter, I heard people playing for a long time, but it took me 40 hours or something to finish it. But I didn't do a lot of side quests in this game. My bad. While the Gagav games, I think they're generally around the 30 plus hours, something like that. Let's say between 30 and 40. So because probably Trails in the Sky will, if you play the way you should play, it's probably 50 hours or something. Second chapter, also the reason why it took Exceed so much in order to bring this to the West is the fact that, as I said, this is a huge game. There is a ton of text, so much dialogue, and this, personally, it took me, I'll say 75 to 77 hours, almost 80 to beat it, but I heard a lot of people going more than 100. And that's the cool thing, as you know, it has 2 UMDs. It is a really big game. And I heard that originally, Falcom kind of like planned these to be one game, but there was no way to do it, of course. So, kind of like Golden Sun in a way. There originally was one big game. It was divided into 2 because of systems limitations. But let's say second chapter continued and concluded the story of Joshua and Estelle. So, and that is the interesting thing that we might talk later about the third, the connection with this other story. But of course, I mean, there's, so as I said, the main story, Joshua and Estelle and their relationship and all of that, it's in a way like the main focus of the game. But the important thing in second chapter, it's the proper, let's say, introduction of Ouroboros, our favorite secret society that a lot of you guys are more familiar from Cold Steel. In a way, small spoilers, in a way, Ouroboros was kind of introduced, or at least mentioned, in the first Trails in the Sky, but it was really in second chapter, and that they were properly introduced, and they kind of steals the show, I have to say. They are amazing in this game, mainly because each member are connected in some way with some of the characters. For example, there is one member has a big story with Sherazard, another one has a big story with Zane. There is Blue Blanc, who's finally got introduced here. He's hilarious. I love that. The Phantom Thief, which it's also in Cold Steel, as we know. And of course, that's Leonhardt, or whatever his name is. He is really this guy over here. He is really one of the main characters in here. I mean, when you start to understand more about him and his story, his connection with Joshua, he is a phenomenal antagonist, because by the end of the game and even during the game, you're asking if he's really a villain, even though he's part of Ouroboros. I mean, second chapter, I can go on forever with the story, but it's just will be a huge spoiler for both the first game and second chapter itself. If you haven't played these 2 Trails in the Sky games, you own it to yourself, because these are easily some of the best RPGs released in this decade, basically. It's unbelievable how good they are. It's this huge story and a million sort of side stories which are important for the main story. A fantastic soundtrack, which in second chapter it's even bigger, because rather than a sequel, you can call second chapter a continuation and conclusion, as I said. And it's just so good. That's kind of the bottom line. It's unbelievable how great second chapter is. But the moment I finished this game, I couldn't rest. As I said, there's no rest for the weekend, because basically a few days later, I bought and started Trails of Cold Steel. Wow. What a departure, first of all, from Trails in the Sky and the Gaga games. Problem is, before starting into Cold Steel, between second chapter and Cold Steel, there are 3 games missing, as we know. There's the third Trails in the Sky and the Crossbell games. So let's just cut the crap here. Here they are. Zero no Kiseki and Ao no Kiseki. And we're still waiting for this. I'm still waiting. I want this. Work on it, Exceed, or whoever. So, Treasure Cold Steel. Um, I I couldn't wait to play this game as like an entirely new Legend of Heroes series and trilogy. Uh, I couldn't wait, and more than 80 hours later, I loved it so much. Now I know there are some, I don't want to say controversies because this is a generally very well liked game, but there are some um, issues. Some people have issues with the pacing of the game because sometimes like there are these moments in which the action basically stop and you're at school, yeah, and but in all honesty, I didn't mind all of that. I used to like do this um, mainly for character development, talk with other characters, and just relax between one mission and the other. I didn't mind that very much. Just like in general, these games set in schools, uh, I don't mind it. I mean, it's a Japanese game, and this sort of like school environment. It's a big part in like anime and video games. I mean, uh, the Persona games, for what I know, take place in schools. Or what else? Over there, Fate Extra, the first one I can see from here. It takes place in a sort of school. Danganronpa, that's the best school in video game history in Trigger Happy Havoc. But apart from that, basically, Treasure Cold Steel, I like to look at this as Legend of Heroes on steroids, basically, as it's greatly, I don't want to say improve, even though I love it, but updated the combat system in particular. I mean, also like the graphics, as like the Trails in the Sky games have their own sort of graphical engine, which I love it. I'm playing the third in these days, and I love that those sprites probably more than the most much like high detail characters in Cold Steel, which I love. But it's just because it's so retro and old school that of course it pulls all the right strings in my heart. But um, Cold Steel has this improved version of the Tristan Sky battle, which is basically the same thing in a way. It's just it looks more recent in a way, as it's still a hybrid turn-based strategy game. There are still quartz. They added like the master quartz and stuff like that, which is awesome. Like I was completely addicted in the Cold Steel games by the master quartz, for example. In terms of like I wanted to level all of them, level it up. I want to level up all of them. Um, and the cool thing is, in here you really see the Suikoden effect on these games, as it takes place on another country of the continent. Oh, someone texted me. Which is the Erebonia Empire. Well, before in Tristan Sky, the game takes place into the Kingdom of Liberl. So in here, you can see all the connections and references and all that cool stuff that makes it really not necessary, but it really feels good if you've played the other games in a way, and that's why we really need the Crossbow games. But so there is an entire new cast of characters. Then through the story, and I would say also like those more quiet moments, like during the free time at school, and that you know better by spending time together. And I completely lost my train of thoughts because of that text. So the characters, I think. So there is a great cast of characters, which are the students in the school, but also do not forget Sarah, your instructor. She's arguably one of my favorite characters in this game. But also, like, many characters are like there are references to other characters. And the main thing, of course, is Like there is this huge story, and Cold Steel, it's an introductory chapter in a way. It's explains that there are problems in the Erebonian Empire, while something else is going on. Like they mention a lot of things that happen and are happening in Crossbell, the things that happened in Liberl during the Treasure Sky trilogy, and all this great stuff. And I absolutely love this. I mean, as I said, I played this right after second chapter, so I spent almost 160 hours between these two games, and I was ready to start all over again another Legend of Heroes game. They're that good, I think, both like storytelling, character development, battle system, the music, all of that. Fantastic. Really, really like it. I mean, Cold Steel has this amazing new cast of characters, as I mentioned before, but by the end of the game, you're very attached to that. And again, of course, there is a big cliffhanger here, even though it didn't have the same effect as the Treasure Sky one to me, because we knew that Cold Steel 2 was coming already. So, but it was still great. Again, if you haven't played Cold Steel 1, you have to. It's easily one of the best games on the Vita. So in the moment, while I was waiting for Treasure Cold Steel 2, I decided to expand my Legend of Heroes collection. And I started to... because I was curious about this particular Japanese thing that we will never get. And as are, of course, the Evolution ports of the Legend of Heroes games. And I decided to at least have one of these because, surprisingly enough, they're very expensive. So I decided to go for the regular edition, since the special was insanely expensive, of, again, the one that started it all. So, Treasure Sky First Chapter, Evolution. I played this for just an hour, since, as you know, Treasure Sky, it's a story, and it's a story-driven game, very heavy on the dialogue. I don't know a word in Japanese. I cannot play a gigantic RPG as this in Japanese. It's impossible. But at least I have it, and I don't know if it's a good idea, because it's a reminder of what we're missing. Since this is, again, Treasure Sky on steroids, it's unbelievably good looking. I mean, this high definition upgrade graphics, the symphonic music, like the voice acting. I mean, the whole game is voice acted. I mean, no wonder Exit's clearly said, like, we will never touch the Evolution games. It's a huge commitment, of course, but also, like, it's on the Vita. The Vita is not a successful console. I don't know if it's still going now, but it's a shame. The whole trilogy was remade this fashion, so just the idea of second chapter and the third in Evolution style, and also the Crossbell games have been remade like this. And of course, since I'm quite optimistic about the fact that we'll eventually get these, I have to buy the Crossbell games, as I showed you before, Zero no Kiseki and Ao no Kiseki, Trails of Blue and Trails of Zero. If I remember well, Greg, Wander from the Past, said that, I don't remember which one of the two, but these, let's say, the Crossbell games are possibly the best of the Legend of Heroes, or the Kiseki, the Trails of sub-series. And again, the fact that there are a million references to these games in the Cold Steel ones, and the fact that in Treasure Cold Steel 2 you can play for a short chapter as two characters from these games, it makes me want to play them very, very bad. As it's an important part of the story we're missing, of course. But as I said, I'm kind of optimistic that eventually we might get them, as like by fan demands. So in a way, like they did for second chapter and the third, that's just a PC exclusive, because I have my physical copy, so I don't care. The important thing is always having the games, not the format. If you're obsessed with physical just do as I did. These are cheap as dirt. Contrary to like if when these games are released in the West, they're expensive, but I think I spent £5 each. I mean, no big deal. They're supposed to have this amazing story, phenomenal soundtrack. Of course, like they're the best, and they're the only ones that we don't have naturally. But I completely forgot. Oh, damn it! But sorry, I was distracted. I believe that we'll have this eventually. Just like, as I said, digital versions. Now, I know, of course, like the others, these are heavy in text and story and everything, but if they manage with second chapter, I think, come on. Uh, Give it time, and I'm positive that we'll have it. Because, after all, I read that all these releases were depend on the success of the games. They say like, what was it? That's either second Treasure Cold Steel 2 the third, or the third was like it. Basically, the series was very dependent on the success of second chapter and Cold Steel 1. They both did well. Treasure Cold Steel 2 did apparently very good, and it was extremely well received. So the third apparently it's doing great in terms of like reviews and stuff like that. I don't know in terms of numbers sold, but since I think the series is quite established now, and I don't see why not for the Crossbell games. Come on, Exceed, do it. And if not Exceed, unfortunately, I don't know. NIS America, it's working a lot with localization of these games now, but we really need this. So, and the long wait, not really long at this point. I mean, the wait ended, of course, when Treasure Cold Steel 2 was released. What was it, like last year or something? And this is amazing. I mean, this is probably fresh in your memory if you played it. Easily the best game on the Vita. One of the best RPGs I played since second chapter, basically, and probably, again, one of the best RPGs you can get like this decade. This is unbelievably good. I mean, if you had pet peeves with Cold Steel 1, like of the more slower parts of the game, all gone. This is all action, crazy action. I mean, there are mechs and completely goes out of the like off tracks in the best possible way. I mean, this is a great continuation and of the story in Cold Steel 1. I mean, plenty of twists and turns, of course, like a good RPG should have, and maybe by the end it drags a bit, I think, especially like the final chapter. I don't think it was exactly necessary, but I still loved it. The same amazing cast of characters. What can I say? I mean, this is probably a bit fresher in your mind, and I don't really need to talk about Cold Steel 2. It's amazing. I mean, everything that was good about Cold Steel 1, but much better. It has, like, you can explore, not really explore, because it's not really an open world game, that's what I want to stress, but it has a bit more freedom on how you want to approach the game in a very old school fashion, though. So through the airship, you can get an airship, so you can explore the Erebonian and do each mission in whatever order you prefer. So you can recruit other students. Fantastic stuff. I mean, I love this game so much. I mean, the combat system is the same from Cold Steel 1, but with some addition that made it even better. So that's what I was saying. Like when I said like second chapter, it's my favorite Legend of Heroes games. It's tough because this is really good as well. And recently, as like I was like been a week or something, I've been greatly enjoyed the finally when it was finally released on Steam, PC only of course, but as I said, the important thing is having these games. Trails in the Sky the Third, the final chapter of the Trails in the Sky trilogy. And I'm very curious as I'm 25 hours into this game. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm very curious where the story is going in general, since the main focus are Kevin and Reyes. Kevin, if you play first and second chapter, you're a bit familiar with him, so you understand. You will understand more about him, and he is a very cool character already in second chapter, but in here is the star of the show. And Reyes, it's very cool, I have to say, and plenty of character. All the characters are returning. It's awesome. I cannot wait to finish it. So, in order to have a proper game discussion on this, but this was a no-brainer. I mean, it's together with Mass Effect Andromeda. This was my most anticipated game of the year, and yeah, it was great to have this. This is also why I think that eventually we'll get the Crossbell games. I mean, we even got the third. So we're almost there. I know this video is going for a long time, but there are a lot of games here. But this is not it. There are two pieces are missing, and it was kind of recent that I've decided that I wanted like a complete collection of Legend of Heroes. And of course, what it's missing are the first games, as where is it? This, which is like the older, it's actually Legend of Heroes 3, as I said. So I really wanted to find and get Legend of Heroes 1 and 2. And it's kind of easy, honestly, to find this game. They're not rare. They are in different different formats. So I decided to go for two different formats. And as you might know or not, Legend of Heroes actually started as a sub-series of Falcom's original main series, which was Dragon's Lair, one of the first RPG series of all time. It's very interesting. And where it's actually everything started was with this game, Dragon's Lair 6, Legend of Heroes 1. Of course, this is a Super Famicom game, so there's no way I can play this, but it's just cool having this gorgeous box and the first game in the series. I mean, I would like to try this, honestly, but for now, there's no way I can. Dragon's Lair deserves a big video on its own, since it's such an important and forgotten series, as basically it's one of the series together even before Dragon Quest, I think, that really started the JRPG thing with Dragon's Lair 2's Xanadu. And did I say Dragon Quest? I don't know. Dragon's Lair 2, Xanadu. And just the other day, as I said, it all started Friday. Finally received in my mail the last really, did I just say pissing? The last missing piece of my collection. Oh god, it's a long video, you can excuse me. And that is, of course, Legend of Heroes 2, and I decided for whatever reason to get it on like this awesome PC Engine version, even though I don't have a PC Engine, of course. And the awesome thing is, like, it's not only like the game plus the manual. Like, there's also a map. So that's really cool. Let me just show it to you guys for a second. There you go. A map. I love these kind of things. I mean, they don't... It's rare, like, that company do these sort of things nowadays. Unless you get, of course, like, those crazy, stupidly special edition or something. But rather than maps, they always, like, They prefer giving you like those huge statues and stuff like that. So it's not really my thing. But it was awesome having this, as it completed like this objective of mine, which was like, now I cannot close this. There you go. Which, thanks to this, now that I have a physical copy of all Legend of Heroes games, and we'll see what they'll tell us more down the line when Treasure Cold Steel 3 will be released. Super curious about that, to see how the Cold Steel trilogy will end, and how it will end, of course, since big things happen in Cold Steel 2, and I'm very curious to how the series will continue, actually, if will continue. My hope, and with this I will conclude this long-ass video, my hope is that after Cold Steel they will do at least another trilogy that's focused on the Calvad Republic, since that's such an important part in these games, like characters from there, and it's like the main rival with Urbonia. So we'll see what happens, but for now, these were my Legend of Heroes games, from the first one when it was still part of the Dragon's Lair series to all this goodness. A fantastic RPG series that, from one simple, quote-unquote simple, just from one game, this fantastic gem of a game, started this passion that made me buy all this other stuff, and hopefully in the future I will be able to play all of them, if they will finally release the Crossbow games. That's, at this point, I've played most of the series. I'm very lucky, I'm very happy, and I cannot thank Falcon enough for creating this phenomenal series, and especially like the very hard work of Xseed, who and their teams who translated this massive behemoth of RPGs. And I'm not sure who worked on the Gagav games, if it was Bandai and their American or something offices, but it's such a great series that, as I said, like, it's currently my favorite series. It will never top Breath of Fire, because that has strong nostalgia and that is a very powerful weapon. But I cannot tell how much I love Legend of Heroes. Yeah, I talked for an hour about it, and I even forgot to show you my Legend of Heroes characters book, because I love art books, and of course I had to buy that focus on this series. There is the Falcon books. There's so much stuff actually on Legend of Heroes, but I'm going to stop now because I'm tired. This video is ridiculously long, but it was worth it, since I really wanted to talk about this and why I love this series so much, to the point that I decided to buy all the games in it. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're still watching, you're not dead by boredom by this point, but I just really love these games. I really wanted to talk about it. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.